Ladies and gentlemen, please make very welcome Dave Spicer.
How are you all? Have you ever been so scared that you can't think straight, you can't take in any of your surroundings, and you're just kind of trapped there, I guess? I felt that for about 5 hours straight. About 5 years ago, on the side of a paddock in Warwick, and I was standing next to a mate of mine. Dave was his name, another Dave. They're all good guys. And Dave and I have been mates since 2000. We both started uni together. We both studied music. We played like 1,000 games of pool together, probably 1,000 gigs as well. We've been in a lot of dodgy situations. But this was certainly the most frightening of all of those. And we're standing at the side of this paddock, and in the middle of the paddock, there's about 30 people all standing around in a circle. And we started walking over there. And my heart was racing, and hands were all clammy. And I got over to the middle of the circle, and some people kind of parted, and I walked in. And I'm now standing in as part of the circle, and Dave's to my left, and this guy standing next to me. He was a lot taller than me, as most people are, and he was like massive muscles and tattoos everywhere, and a big nose ring, and he kind of just looked at me and without the smile. I'll try again. And he was rough, not letting any emotion show at all. And we were all certainly frightened. And the whole reason I was in this circle was because of Dave. I built a website for Dave. He needed some help. And so to repay me, he went online and had a look for experiences that we could do together. And he found skydiving. So there I am, about to go for a skydive. Now, just like he had two options when he was browsing online. Option A, which was the safe option that he should have chosen, was a 15-minute tandem jump. So the time on site is like 15 minutes. You walk up and they give you a harness and off you go, and you do this thing. It's all over nice and quick, and you're probably back in the car within about half an hour. But Dave had chosen option B, which was 5 solid hours of training, followed by your very first jump. Rather than being strapped to an instructor with about 2,000 jumps under their belt, instead you jump out solo for the first time. So, just as a show of hands, who's skydived before? Yeah, cool. Keep your hands up if you did it solo. Okay, cool. So we got 2 people. So this was amazing because in this circle there's Dave, and then there's this next guy who was rough as guts. And in the middle of this circle is what I can only describe as I'm just going to call him a sergeant. He's the sergeant from now on for the rest of the story, because he was just reminded me of that kind of character, and he would just yell orders at us for 5 hours. But it didn't matter, because for the first 2 minutes he described what was going to happen. And I knew for about the first, like an hour leading up to this, that I was going to be doing a skydive. And so in my head, I knew there were going to be about 30 people. So I envisaged like a plane with, all 30 of us in there. And one by one, we kind of just all leisurely jump out. Anyway, so he described what we were going to do. He said, we're going to take you up in 3s. And when it's your turn, we're going to open up the side of the aircraft, and you're going to put one leg out onto the wheel, and then you're going to put all your weight onto the wheel, and then put your hands up and grab the wing. Now there's a strut along the wing. What we want you to do is like shimmy along the wing until all your weight's kind of off the wheel, at which point you can just let go of the wheel and hang from the wing of the aircraft unassisted, at which point, when you're hanging there, you can leisurely look around to the sergeant who's going to give you the thumbs up, at which point you can drop. So anyway, the rest of the training's a blur. I remember nothing of that training at all. But I do remember in the 5 hours, like the little things that kind of flash back to me are those moments where they would give that big muscly fellow the instructions to do something, and he would do whatever he did with like arms crossed and just this attitude, and he didn't say whatever, but he may as well have after everything he did, because it was just, there was a barrier and he didn't care. But anyway, we went through this 5 hours of training, which of course was a blur, and then it was finally time. We're going to go up in the plane. And they called up, they grouped us all in threes, and would you believe it's me and Dave, and they've put us with this guy. And so we're walking over to the plane, and I'm not even going to call it a plane because I've seen kites bigger than this plane. And to be honest, like you can't, that picture I painted at the start, it was nothing like that. You couldn't sit in the plane. You couldn't stand in it, you couldn't sit in it. You needed to crawl into it on all fours. And on all fours with the backpack, you were touching the roof. So it's a coffin that's in the sky. And then as you get up to like, I think it was about 8,000 feet or something, what they do is they open up, not the door, the plane, like the side of the plane just opens up. And so now it's just like, we're just in the middle of the air. And anyway, this guy is the first guy to go. And they said, the commander, the sergeant from up the top, he points and says, "You're up." And this guy, big muscly guy, kind of walks out, and he just like they said, they put his foot on the wheelbase and he broke the wing and he shimmied across. Then he let go and he was hanging there. And I was thinking, what a legend! Like this guy, like he talks the talk, he walks the walk. And then he kind of looked back, and it was incredible. It was like this. And the wind's like ripping his mouth apart, and he's got tears down his eyes. But even with like all the wind stuff going on, like you could read his soul. It was just pure. He was scared, and for that moment, like it stripped away all the tattoos and the muscles and the rings, and like he was just as scared as I was. And anyway, but he dropped and he was gone, and then. It was Dave's turn, and I later found out that Dave, the whole way up, was trying to just construct some sort of excuse so that he could get out of it. And but it's his turn, and anyway, he must have thought to himself, "Okay, I'm going to do it," and he like took 3 crawls forward, slipped, and just fell. So he's just gone. It was like he was there, and then he's gone, and like I remember like looking around, but I couldn't see him, and I just looked like I was shocked, and I'm looking at the sergeant, and he just kind of goes, "Cool, that's one way to go," and then he goes, "You're up." Anyway, so I'm trying to think of how I can get out of it, but at the same time, like my mate's just gone. Like he's done the jump, and there's no way I can go back down to the bottom now, and he's done the jump and I haven't. So anyway, so I get to the wheel, I do the wheel, and I shimmy across, and then I hang. Probably like I didn't see it from another perspective, but I'm assuming like Superman, like a boss, just hanging from this plane. And I got the okay, and I fell down. Anyway, as soon as like all the, it wasn't like this beautiful, blissful, just free fall and everything's amazing. It was just this tumbling, couldn't orientate myself, had no idea where anything was, and the next thing the parachute goes off, and I'm kind of okay, and I'm just gliding down. But it was incredible. Is that when I finally got down to the base, I found myself in the exact same position I'd started the day at. I was in the same place, but at the start of the day I was full of fear and freaking out. But right now it was like, I don't know, like all of a sudden I wasn't thinking about the fear, I was enjoying the day I was taking in all the stuff, and all of a sudden the day was in colour, which was really, really beautiful, and I'd faced my fear, which was very cool. And I guess the great thing about facing fears is that if we actually do it, if we take that step or take that jump and actually do it, I'm sure when we get to the bottom and we have a look around, we'll probably have a pretty good story out of it.